Hey guys, in this video I want to show you the great flamenco form called tangos. If you're just starting out with flamenco, I suggest learning the two forms farruca and tangos because they're the easiest to process. We'll find out why that is in this video, learn some techniques, and the main elements that make up this form. So this form is often played in the key of A Phrygian, which they also call the por medio key. That means it's in the middle of the strings as opposed to something like this you might see in a malagueña, or that's like the quintessential way to sound Spanish instantly. Play an E shape, scoot it up one fret. Okay? We're kind of doing the same thing here on an A chord, except we're not going to play them this way. Most of the time in flamenco, we're going to play it like this. Middle finger on the second fret of the second string, and then do an interior bar and kind of smush your finger backwards if you can, because we want to make sure that the E string is open and clear. And the reason that they do that is so we can have these two fingers free to do other things like this. Kind of sound. So it would take some getting used to. We're going to make that simpler in a minute, but this is the basic chord for tangos most of the time. Okay, if we scoot that up one fret, this A form, we would have a B flat chord like this. And that's pretty hard to play that way, so most of the time we're not going to do it that way. We're going to leave the ring in the pinky and put your index here, and then the rest of the strings will be open. We're not playing the fifth string at all. So it gives you a kind of a more mysterious sound. Really the reason that we're doing it is because it's easier to play. So we're gonna count to 4. Each chord gets one measure. We're just gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to A. 2. So that's the basic idea. There's a lot more to it, of course, but right now we just wanna map out what's happening when. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So very often that'll happen 2 times, and then we'll go to this little cadence, D minor, then to a C chord, and then back to B flat, and then to A. And we'll see how this kind of matches farruca in many ways in a minute. So this is the Andalusian cadence. D minor, C, B flat, A Phrygian, or the key of D minor. Kind of 2 ways of saying the same thing. Let's do the whole thing together. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3. Go back to B flat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Now a D minor chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. What happens in tangos a lot is nothing happens on the 1, and that can be confusing. We can do a tap there. We can still play on the 1. It's not going to hurt anybody. But if you were listening to palmas and you had that as a backing track, it would be kind of confusing if you're not aware that nothing's happening on the 1. So you're going to hear this. So when you hear that, you might perceive those first 2 claps as being the first beat, but it's not. That's the second beat. It's going nothing on 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4. We're not going to play the palmas, but just keep that in mind that we want to be very light and maybe even not do anything on the 1. Let's add some upstrokes and not do anything on the 1 with the same chord progression. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, nothing, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and here we have D minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. We can also do a golpe on the 1. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick up the pace a little bit. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's do 2 things. Let's add some rasgueos to this. That's when we hit the strings with our nails. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. And let's make these chords easier by making them more harmonically complicated. So for A, like I said, the reason that we play it in this weird way is so that we can add this note, kind of hammer on. But what we can do is just leave it down the entire time. So we're gonna go through the whole compás, and that's what we're working on here. It's called the compás. It's like the basic rhythm and groove and chords of the form itself. So leave that down. Now, because this is down, we don't have to bar this anymore, so we can relax there. So that's already good news. And that sounds so much more flamenco and sinister sounding. That is a flat 9 over that chord. So if you go to B flat, you can leave that finger down. Perfect, right? Now check this out. Instead of playing D minor this way, we can leave this ring finger down and play what remains of D minor And that kind of fulfills the function of D minor, but now it's an inversion of a B flat chord, but close enough, right? This is what we see all the time, okay? Now for C, instead of playing a C chord like this, we're gonna play C dominant ninth, but all that really means is we never took those fingers off. So that's way, way, way easier than even playing a basic C chord, I think. And then B flat, and then we're back to A. In the right hand, we're gonna play a traditional kind of compas for this, where we're gonna play a 4-stroke twice, like this. One, notice I played on the first beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our entryway into playing things more complicated, okay? 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, let's modernize this a little bit. What I mean by that is typically now they play it in a different way, and the newer flamenco stuff is almost always going to be more syncopated. We're going to use these two fingers, the index and the ring, up with the index, down with the ring, down with the index again. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. See, I skipped one of those downstrokes. 1 and a 2 and 4 and. On the third beat, I'm not doing anything there. So many variations and ways that you can do it. Before we get more complicated, let's do a quick comparison to Furuca. Furuca would sound like this, in the key of A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2. What is similar there is the same count. We are playing on the one. There's much heavier accent on the one than there is in tangos, but it's the same amount of time, and the chord sequence, chord progression is kind of almost exactly the same in terms of how long each chord gets and how many chords there are and things like that. So it's going 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So the first two chords happen twice, just like tangos, and then it goes to this kind of other part that kind of wraps it up and goes. They both happen to be a D minor chord in both forms. A minor, and then we might have a concluding phrase, something like that. We can do something very similar to that in tangos as well. Okay, back to tangos. Let's make this a little bit fancier by adding in some bass stuff. Kind of have a little scale in here that we can play with in the gaps while we're playing this compas. We have 3rd fret of the 4th string, 2nd open, the 3rd, and sometimes the 4, but we'll leave that out for now, and then the 1st fret, and then open again. And then we can keep going down to the 3rd fret here, sometimes even this, and then this one, the 1st fret, and then open. So you might hear a classic tangos sound something like this. 1, 2, just a little variation in the bass, but that's starting to make it sound much more cool than just strumming the chords, right? We're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and I did a rest stroke with the thumb, and now I'm totally poised and ready to do another rest stroke on the next string. What else could we do there? Instead of this, maybe we'll go the other way. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So there I did a pull off, and here I did a hammer on. Always landing on that A note. Now, since we're talking about bass notes, here's another thing we can do to continually make things more sophisticated or complicated, right? So instead of strumming on the first beat, we don't have to strum at all, right? We can do nothing, or we can tap, or we could play the root of the chord. So what if we went like this? So there I added in a new raw scale. I'm not using the pinky. I did ring, middle, index, and then up again. So that's 1, triple and 2, and I did an accent on the and of 2 by doing a downstroke and playing it louder. Notice there at the end I did a pull off. So I don't have that barred, right? We're taking it easy on our finger, not barring, and so that means that I can go and pull off to that open string, which sounds pretty cool. Okay, now we'll talk about the llamada. You may have heard that word before. In flamenco, it literally means a call, and we're kind of signaling, kind of telegraphing that we're concluding a section. In a form like soleá, you might have this, 1, 2, 3. in tangos, the llamado is going to look like this. Instead of playing this chord, we can move this to the ceiling, and that makes this chord now more movable actually, and we can get down here. What's going to happen, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Nothing happened on the 1, right? 1, 2, and landing on the third beat there. I threw in one extra new rasgueo there at the end, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But again, let's look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. A lot of different ways to phrase that rhythmically. So at the end there, I was doing a triplet rasgueo. Up with the thumb, down with the middle, down with the thumb. That's all that is. But in the llamado, I was going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and I put a G note down on the bottom of this A chord. That's an inversion of A7. It just sounds more dissonant and cool. And then I did into the third beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, triple 3, 4, and let it ring out. Just like in Soleil, we end on the 10. We go 10, 11, 12. In tangos, we're gonna go 3 and then let it ring on the 4. Let's put the llamada together with the main compás with our little bass variations and see what it sounds like. I threw in a cool little slur phrase. If you noticed, I went, that sounds so mysterious. So we can throw that into tangos anytime when we're going from B flat to A. 1, 2, 3, 4, E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should experiment with this chord progression and see if you can throw in some of these other notes. They're all fair game if you do them at the right time, of course. So let's look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, basic chords, right? What if we did this? So you can do so much as long as you're conforming to the time. It's really up to you, and that's what makes flamenco so cool. We're not reading anything off of a sheet. We have like a framework and a template and a concept, and we just try to do it in time, and hopefully it's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you know how to play alzapúa, we can do that. I'm going down with the thumb, strum down several strings, up, and then play a single note. That's one of many alzapúa patterns. I'm going to do triplets. I'm doing the over the wrist thing, the wrist killer. And I go to the C note. You can take them off, on and off as you go, or just leave it down. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just as an example of what you can do. Okay, as you get better and better at this and more familiar with it, we can always complicate things. And like I said earlier, the more modern stuff is definitely more syncopated. So see if you can tell what the great Moraito is doing here in his tangos. Did you notice what happened there rhythmically? The first pass of the compás was what we've been talking about. But then he went like this. He's accenting the and of 4. He's going early to that A note. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Definitely a more modern thing because it's syncopated. Let's look at that one more time, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 2, 3, and 4. So when you go early there on the and of 4, you just have to wait a half beat longer, of course, so that you don't end up perceiving that early A note as being on the 1. It's before that, so you have to wait a little longer to make up the difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. He went from here. To make it simpler, we could leave out this F note and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One more cool idea for tangos I want to leave you with is doing a golpe 3 times in the measure, like this. So this is almost like a rumba, a group of 3, group of 3, group of 2, and each group is starting with a tap with the ring finger. I'm going tap, and then up with the index, down with the index. That's a group of 3. 1, 2, 3. Do it again without hesitating. 1, 2, 3 again, and then do 1, 2, and you're done. That is also a rumba. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and next chord. And we can throw that little phrase in there. So I hope that helps you wrap your brain around what this form is. Also check out Faruka. Be sure to get my guitar tab guide for this to give you some of the key phrases and concepts that we're talking about. And since I've been mentioning Faruka, you have to check out this video where I teach you all about that form.